The massive doors of the council chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Ambassador Laura Martinez walked through them and felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes watching her every step. The chamber was so large that Earth's biggest stadium could fit inside it 3 times over. High above her head, the ceiling showed images of stars and planets that belonged to the Galactic Confederation. Laura had been Earth's voice in this place for 5 years now. She knew every species that sat in the curved rows of seats around her. The tall blue beings with crystal skin were the architects. They could change the shape of entire worlds just by thinking about it. The shadow-like creatures that seemed to fade in and out of sight were the void walkers. They could step between dimensions like humans walked through doorways. And there were others, each more powerful than the last. Today felt different, though. The usual chatter and noise was gone. Instead, silence filled the air like a heavy blanket. Laura's footsteps echoed as she walked to the small platform where humans were allowed to stand. It was much lower than the seats of the other species, a reminder of where humanity ranked in this galaxy. High Chancellor Vexithara rose from her seat at the center of the chamber. She was a Dominion, one of the oldest and most feared species in the galaxy. Her forearms moved with perfect grace as she activated the speaking device. When she spoke, her voice reached every corner of the vast room. We have called this emergency session to address a serious problem. The human species has violated the territorial agreements that govern our galaxy. Your people have built colonies and systems that were forbidden to you. Your ships have traveled to places where humans are not welcome. This cannot continue. Laura felt her heart beating faster but kept her face calm. She had expected this day would come. Earth's colonies in the outer spiral had been growing quickly. Humanity needed room to expand, and the galaxy was so vast that they thought no one would mind a few more human settlements. But there was more. Vexithara continued speaking, and each word felt like a hammer blow. Your species has also been forming alliances with groups that the Council has marked as dangerous. The rebel colonies, the free traders, the independent worlds. These groups threaten the peace we have worked so hard to build. A murmur went through the chamber. Laura could hear the other species talking in their strange languages. Some sounded angry, others seemed afraid. She wondered what they were really worried about. Humans had been part of the galaxy for 50 years now, but they were still seen as newcomers, barely worth noticing. The Council has made a decision. Vexthara's voice grew harder, more commanding. Humanity will return to the Sol system immediately. All colonies beyond your home system must be abandoned within 1 standard year. Your people will accept technological restrictions to prevent further unauthorized expansion. Council peacekeepers will monitor all human activities to ensure compliance. Laura felt the blood drain from her face. What the Chancellor was describing was not peace. It was imprisonment. Humanity would be trapped in their own solar system like animals in a cage. The technological restrictions would stop human progress for generations. And the monitoring would mean no privacy, no freedom, no hope of ever growing beyond what they were right now. If humanity refuses these terms, Vexithara said with a cold smile, then you will be expelled from the Confederation. Your species will be marked as hostile. No trade, no communication, no protection. You will face the galaxy alone. The threat was clear. Outside the Confederation, humanity would be fair game for any species that wanted to attack them. Pirates, slavers, or worse could hit human worlds without fear of punishment. Earth's small fleet of 300 ships would be helpless against the million-vessel armadas that some species commanded. Laura stood up slowly. Her voice was steady when she spoke, even though her hands were shaking. I request 48 hours to consult with my government. This decision affects the future of my entire species. Surely the Council can grant us time to consider our response. Laughter filled the chamber. Not friendly laughter, but the kind that comes from those who think they are watching something amusing and pathetic. Vexithara looked down at Laura with the expression someone might use when looking at a pet that had just tried to speak. Very well. 48 hours. But understand this, human. The Council's patience has limits. Your species has already tested those limits too far. Use your time wisely. As Laura turned to leave, she heard whispers from the alien delegates. One voice, belonging to Counselor Thronix of the Quantum Shepherds, carried clearly across the chamber. These primitive mammals still believe they have choices. How amusing. The words hit Laura like a physical blow. Primitive mammals. That was how they saw humanity. Not as equals, not even as worthy opponents, just as animals that had somehow learned to build spaceships. The anger that rose in her chest was so strong she had to stop walking for a moment to control it. But as she walked through those massive doors and back toward her ship, Laura began to smile. If the Council thought humans were just primitive mammals, they were in for quite a surprise. There were things about humanity that the galaxy had never seen, things that had been kept secret for very good reasons. The trip back to Earth took 18 hours through the fastest hyperspace routes. Laura spent most of that time writing her report and preparing for what she knew would be the most important meeting in human history. Every choice they made in the next 2 days would determine whether humanity had a future among the stars or would be crushed before they could reach their true potential. When her ship finally entered Earth's solar system, Laura looked out at the blue-green world where humanity had been born. It seemed so small and peaceful from space, but she knew that down on that planet in secret facilities hidden from alien eyes, humans had been working on something that would change everything. The question now was whether they were ready to show the galaxy what humanity could really do, and whether the galaxy was ready to learn that the primitive mammals had teeth much sharper than anyone imagined. The emergency meeting room in the United Earth Government building had never held so many important people at once. President Catherine Wells sat at the head of the long table, her face showing the weight of the impossible choice before them. Around her sat the most powerful leaders on Earth, and each one looked as worried as she felt. Admiral Jake Morrison paced back and forth near the big screen that showed Earth's defense fleet. 300 ships. That was all humanity had to protect dozens of colonies and billions of people. The numbers on the screen seemed to mock them. The Galactic Confederation had over 1 million vessels, some of them larger than Earth's biggest cities. We cannot fight them. Defense Secretary Karen Phillips spoke first, her voice quiet but firm. Even if we gathered every ship, every weapon, every soldier, we would last maybe an hour against their smallest battle group. The technology gap is just too large. Admiral Morrison stopped pacing and turned to face the table. His hands were clenched into fists. So what do you suggest? That we just give up? Abandon millions of colonists and crawl back to Earth like beaten dogs? We have faced extinction before, and we are still here. Ambassador Laura Martinez had been quiet since delivering her report. Now she spoke up, her voice tired but determined. There might be another way. We could try to negotiate better terms. Maybe offer something they want in exchange for letting us keep some of our colonies. Foreign Minister David Kane shook his head. What could we possibly offer them? They have technologies we can barely understand. They can reshape matter with their thoughts, travel between dimensions, control the fundamental forces of physics. What does humanity have that they could want? For several minutes the room was silent except for the hum of computers and the distant sound of traffic outside. These were the most powerful people on Earth, and they had no answers. President Wells was about to call for a vote on surrender when Director Ryan Blake cleared his throat. Blake ran Earth's intelligence division, and he was known for staying quiet during meetings like this. When he did speak, people listened. There is something the Council does not know about us, something we have kept hidden since first contact. With the Zephyrians 50 years ago, all eyes turned to Blake. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a data pad marked with symbols that meant the information. Inside was classified at the highest levels. I need to tell you about Project Blackwater. President Wells frowned. I have never heard of any Project Blackwater. Blake nodded. That was the point. Only 12 people on Earth know about this project, and half of them are in this room. We started it in 2341, 4 years after the Zephyrians found us. Blake touched the data pad, and the big screen changed to show complex diagrams and test results. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was called in from the hallway where she had been waiting. She was the lead scientist on the project, a small woman with intense eyes who looked like she had not slept in weeks. Dr. Rodriguez stepped to the front of the room and began to speak. When we first encountered alien technology, we did what humans always do. We took it apart to see how it worked. But we discovered something unusual. Humans cannot just copy alien technology. We can understand it in ways that its creators never imagined. She touched a control, and the screen showed a Zephyrian engine next to a human-built version. The alien engine was elegant and efficient. The human version looked different, bulkier, but somehow more powerful. We do not just reverse engineer their technology. We integrate it with our own ideas and improve it. Admiral Morrison stepped closer to the screen. How much improvement are we talking about? Dr. Rodriguez smiled for the first time since entering the room. Our version of Zephyrian hyperdrive technology is 30% faster and uses half the energy, and that was just our first attempt. The room erupted in excited voices, but Blake held up his hand for silence. That is not even the best part. Show them the colony reports, Elena. Dr. Rodriguez nodded and changed the display again. This time it showed star maps with human colonies marked in green. Every human colony has been secretly working on hybrid technology projects. We have combined crystalline matter shaping techniques with Void Walker dimensional technology. We have merged quantum shepherd force manipulation with Dominion energy systems. The results have been beyond our wildest dreams. Foreign Minister Kane leaned forward in his chair. You mean our colonies have been developing advanced technology this whole time? How did the Council not notice? Blake answered that question. Their monitoring systems are designed to detect traditional technological signatures. Our hybrid approach creates patterns they have never seen before. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up another display showing ship designs. These were unlike anything in the known galaxy. Human vessels that seem to combine the best features of every major civilization. We have been very careful to hide our true capabilities. To Council censors, our colonies look like they are using primitive human technology. President Wells stared at the designs in amazement. How many ships like this do we have? Blake smiled grimly. More than the Council suspects. Every human trader, diplomat, and explorer has been gathering technology samples and intelligence. What they think are gifts to primitive humans have actually been carefully studied and integrated into our growing arsenal. The scale of the deception was stunning. For 50 years, humanity had been playing the role of grateful newcomers while secretly building something the galaxy had never seen. Every act of apparent weakness had been cover for rapid advancement. Admiral Morrison looked at the ship designs with the eye of someone who had spent his life in space combat. These vessels would be more than a match for anything in the Council fleet. But do we have enough of them? Blake nodded. More than enough. President Wells felt a surge of hope for the first time since Laura had delivered the Council's ultimatum. But she also felt the weight of the decision before them. Using these ships would mean revealing humanity's true nature to the galaxy. There would be no going back. What are you recommending? She asked Blake. He looked around the room at each person before answering. I recommend we reject the Council's terms completely. Not just refuse to surrender our colonies, but make it clear that humanity will never accept limits on our growth and development. And then we show them why that refusal is not a request, Blake continued. We demonstrate our true capabilities in a way that makes the entire galaxy understand that humanity is not a species to be controlled or contained. The room fell silent again as everyone considered the implications. They were talking about revealing secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. But they were also talking about ensuring that humanity would never again be threatened with extinction by those who thought they were superior. President Wells looked at each face around the table. She saw fear, but she also saw determination. Humanity had always been at its best when facing impossible odds. All in favor of Director Blake's recommendation? Every hand in the room went up. The decision was made. In less than 24 hours, Ambassador Martinez would return to the Council with humanity's answer. And very soon after that, the galaxy would learn what humans were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be weak. Ambassador Laura Martinez walked back into the Council chamber exactly 48 hours after she had left. This time her steps were firm and confident. She carried herself like someone who knew something the rest of the galaxy did not. The alien delegates watched her approach the human platform with expressions of bored superiority. High Chancellor Vexithera did not bother to stand this time. Her forearms remained folded as she activated the speaking device. Well, what is humanity's answer to the Council's generous terms? Laura looked up at the towering alien and smiled calmly. The United Earth government has carefully considered your proposal. Our answer is no. We reject all terms. Humanity will not abandon our colonies. We will not accept technological restrictions. We will not submit to Council monitoring. We choose to determine our own future among the stars. The chamber exploded with noise. Alien voices raised in anger, shock, and disbelief filled the vast space. Several delegates stood up, their strange forms towering over the small human figure below. Vexithara's face turned dark with rage. You dare refuse the Council? You insignificant creatures have signed your own death warrant. The Chancellor activated emergency protocols with swift motions of her hands. Immediately, warning signals began broadcasting across the galaxy. Humanity was now classified as a hostile species. Trade agreements were canceled, diplomatic immunity was revoked, and military action was authorized. Laura remained calm as chaos erupted around her. She had expected this reaction. In fact, she was counting on it. The more dramatic the Council's response, the more impressive humanity's demonstration would be. As she left the chamber for the last time, she sent a single coded message to Earth. 3 hours later, massive Confederation battle fleets began moving toward the Sol system. Admiral Korath of the Dominion commanded the largest fleet, consisting of 200 warships each the size of a human city. Admiral Sethan of the Crystalline Architects brought 100 vessels that could reshape themselves during battle. Admiral Vorthak of the Void Walkers led 50 ships that could attack from multiple dimensions at once. The galaxy watched through news feeds and monitoring stations as the three fleets converged on humanity's home system. Military experts calculated that Earth's entire defense force would be destroyed in minutes. Some alien civilizations placed bets on how long the human fleet would last. Most estimates were under 10 minutes. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Neptune's Revenge. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency, preparing for the most important battle in human history. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing 3 enemy fleets approaching. Any one of them was powerful enough to conquer most civilizations. But Morrison was not worried. In fact, he was excited. Humanity had been hiding their true strength for 50 years. Today they would finally show the galaxy what they had become. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Operation Revelation is now active. Show them who we really are. Space around the Sol system began to shimmer and distort. What the aliens had thought was empty space suddenly filled with ships. Not the small, crude vessels they expected, but massive warships that defied everything the galaxy knew about human technology. The Neptune's Revenge was no longer the simple metal ship it had appeared to be. Its hull flowed and changed shape like living crystal, using architect technology. Parts of the ship faded in and out of normal space, employing Voidwalker dimensional techniques. Energy fields surrounded the human fleet, bending space and time with quantum shepherd science. Admiral Korath stared at his display screens in disbelief. These cannot be human ships. Our intelligence reports showed they had only primitive vessels. His tactical officer, a veteran of 1,000 battles, was checking and rechecking his instruments. Sir, the readings are confirmed. Those are human energy signatures, but the technology is unlike anything in our databases. The 3 alien fleets opened fire, unleashing enough energy to destroy entire worlds. Beams of pure force that could cut through any known material struck the human ships. Weapons that had never failed to destroy their targets fired again and again. But nothing happened. The human ships did not just absorb the attacks. They redirected them, feeding the energy back into their own systems. Shield technologies from 7 different species working together created defenses that the galaxy had never seen. The more the aliens fired, the stronger the human ships became. Captain Lisa Chen commanded the destroyer Horizon's Edge from a bridge that existed in 4 dimensions at once. Her ship was testing the most advanced human technology, existing in multiple realities simultaneously. She could see the alien fleets in normal space, but also in the dimensional layers where Voidwalkers usually hid. Horizon's Edge opened communication channels to the trapped Confederation ships. This is Captain Chen of the Human Defense Force. Your weapons cannot harm us, but we do not wish to harm you. Surrender now and you will be safely escorted out of our system. The alien commanders could not believe what they were hearing. Humans were offering them mercy? Admiral Sethan tried to use his most powerful weapon, a reality-shaping beam that could turn matter into energy. The beam struck a human cruiser and simply disappeared, absorbed by shields that seemed to exist outside normal physics. Morrison decided it was time to end the demonstration. All ships begin containment procedures. Do not harm the crews, but make sure they understand the situation. Human ships moved with impossible grace, surrounding each alien vessel with fields that froze them in space. Zephyrian time dilation technology slowed the alien ships until they could barely move. Dominion matter conversion beams harmlessly transformed their weapons into inert materials. Voidwalker dimensional technology moved the helpless ships away from Earth, placing them at the edge of the solar system, where they could do no harm. The entire battle lasted less than an hour. Three of the most powerful fleets in galactic history had been defeated without losing a single ship. More importantly, not one alien crew member had been killed. The humans had demonstrated overwhelming superiority while showing perfect restraint. News of the impossible human victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Species that had ruled for millions of years watched in stunned silence as their most advanced technology was casually defeated by the race they had dismissed as primitive. Mammals. Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel that reached every ship in the disabled fleets. This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Defense Force. Your ships and crews are unharmed. You are free to return to your home systems with this message. Humanity seeks peace, but we will not be threatened or controlled. One by one, the alien ships were released and allowed to leave. They limped away from the Sol system, their crews still trying to understand what had happened. The humans had not just defeated them, they had made it look easy. As the last enemy ship disappeared into hyperspace, Morrison looked out at Earth hanging peacefully in space. The planet that had given birth to humanity looked the same as always. But everything else had changed. The galaxy now knew that humans were not weak prey to be bullied and controlled. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that had quietly learned everything the galaxy had to teach, improved upon it, and then revealed their true power only when threatened. And this demonstration was just the beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted for 3 days without break. High Chancellor Vexithara had not left her seat since the reports started coming in from the Sol system. Her forearms shook as she read each new intelligence briefing. The impossible had happened and no one knew what to do about it. Councillor Thronix of the Quantum Shepherd stood before the assembled delegates, his usual confidence completely gone. The recordings do not lie. 3 of our most powerful battle fleets were defeated, without destroying a single human ship. Our weapons, which have conquered 1,000 worlds, had no effect on their defenses. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the battle again and again. Each viewing made it more clear how completely the aliens had been outmatched. Human ships that moved like liquid, weapons that redirected energy instead of absorbing it, shields that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Ambassador Ziara of the Crystalline Architects spoke next, her crystal body flickering with colors that showed deep distress. We have analyzed the human technology. They have somehow combined elements from all 7 major civilizations. But it is more than simple copying. They have created something entirely new. The worst part was not just that humans had defeated them. It was how easily they had done it. The human ships had moved with casual confidence, as if the most powerful weapons in the galaxy were nothing more than annoyances. They had disabled 3 fleets and then politely asked them to leave. Director Kethrin of the Void Walkers materialized fully in normal space, something his species rarely did in the presence of others. His voice carried notes of fear that sent chills through the chamber. They exist in multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. Our ability to phase between realities gives us no advantage. They can see us no matter where we hide. The implications were staggering. Each species in the Council had achieved mastery over specific aspects of reality. The Architects controlled matter. The Void Walkers controlled dimensions. The Quantum Shepherds controlled fundamental forces. But humans seemed to control everything at once. High Chancellor Vexithara finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. How long have they possessed this technology? How could our intelligence networks miss something so significant? The questions hung in the air like accusations. Everyone in the chamber was thinking the same thing. For 50 years, they had treated humans like amusing pets. Primitive mammals who had been lucky enough to discover space travel. They had been patient with human requests, generous with small gifts of outdated technology, and amused by human attempts to understand galactic civilization. Now they realized that every gift, every interaction, every moment of contact had been carefully planned by the humans. While the Council thought they were educating backward primitives, the humans had been studying, learning, and improving upon everything they encountered. Admiral Korath appeared on a communication screen, his proud Dominion features showing embarrassment and confusion. My fleet was disabled in minutes. Their shields absorbed our most powerful weapons and fed the energy back into their systems. When we tried to ram their ships, our vessels simply passed through them like they were ghosts. The fear in the chamber was almost physical. These beings had ruled the galaxy for eons, secure in their technological superiority. They had never imagined that a young species could surpass them so completely. Worse, they had no idea what humans planned to do with their newfound power. Across the galaxy, the news spread with lightning speed. On 1,000 worlds, alien civilizations that had never known defeat watched recordings of human ships casually destroying the most powerful fleets in existence. The psychological impact was devastating. Trade networks that had operated for millions of years began shutting down. Species that had freely shared technology and resources suddenly became secretive and paranoid. If humans could learn and improve upon anything they encountered, then contact with them was dangerous. Communication channels went dark as entire civilizations implemented information blackouts. Research facilities that had operated openly for centuries suddenly became heavily classified. The galaxy that had been connected by vast networks of trade and communication began to fragment into isolated pockets of fearful silence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez broadcast a message from Earth that reached every inhabited system in the galaxy. Her voice was calm and professional as she explained humanity's unique evolutionary path. While other species developed along specialized lines, humans retained adaptability as their greatest strength. She showed recordings of Earth's violent history, the constant wars and environmental challenges that had shaped humanity. Every crisis had made humans more adaptable, more innovative, more willing to try new approaches when old ones failed. What the galaxy saw as chaos, humans saw as training. The message explained how humans had spent 50 years carefully studying every piece of alien technology they encountered, not just copying it, but understanding the fundamental principles and finding ways to combine different approaches into something entirely new. This revelation terrified the galactic powers even more. Humans had not just stumbled upon advanced technology, they had methodically planned their rise to power from the moment of first contact. Every human ambassador, trader, and tourist had been part of a vast intelligence operation. Desperate attempts at diplomacy began immediately. The Council sent envoy after envoy to Earth, offering everything they could think of: full membership with voting rights, access to the most closely guarded technologies, territorial concessions that would make humanity one of the major galactic powers. Ambassador Laura Martinez met each delegation with polite but firm responses. Humanity appreciated the offers, but they had simple demands: complete recognition of human sovereignty, formal apology for the attempted subjugation, and establishment of genuine equality within the Confederation. The demands seemed reasonable, but they represented something the Council had never done before: admitting that they had been wrong about a species they had dismissed as primitive. Acknowledging that the upstart humans had forced the ancient powers to change their entire approach to galactic governance. Even more frightening was humanity's restraint. They could have demanded tribute, territory, or submission. Instead, they asked only for respect and equality. This measured response suggested strategic thinking and long-term planning that made humans even more dangerous in the eyes of galactic leaders. The galaxy that had been buzzing with activity and communication for millions of years fell into an eerie silence. Species that had proudly announced their achievements now hid their capabilities. Research that had been shared openly became classified secrets. Trade routes closed, alliances dissolved, and fear replaced cooperation. In the depths of space, on planets that had been peaceful for eons, military leaders began preparing for a future they had never imagined. A future where humanity might decide that the galaxy would be better off under human control. A future where the primitive mammals had become the apex predators. The silence stretched across 12,000 star systems, broken only by encrypted communications and the sound of weapons being prepared. The galaxy waited to see what humanity would do next, and whether the species that had shown such perfect restraint would continue to be merciful. 6 months had passed since the demonstration at the Sol system, and the galaxy was still holding its breath. President Catherine Wells stood before the massive communication array that could reach every inhabited world in known space. Today, she would finally reveal humanity's true intentions to a universe that had been paralyzed by fear. The broadcast began with a simple message that reached billions of beings across thousands of worlds. People of the galaxy, I am Catherine Wells, President of the United Earth Government. Today, humanity wants to share our vision for the future of galactic civilization. We know that many of you are afraid of us. You have seen our technology and wondered what we plan to do with it. You have worried that humanity seeks to conquer and dominate as so many species have done before us. I am here to tell you that conquest was never our goal. Director Ryan Blake appeared on screens across the galaxy, standing beside displays that showed 50 years of hidden research. During our time in the Confederation, we discovered something troubling. Galactic civilization has stopped growing. Each species reached technological peaks long ago and then simply stopped advancing. The evidence was overwhelming. For millions of years, the major civilizations had maintained the same technologies, the same social structures, the same limitations. Progress had been replaced by stagnation, innovation by tradition. The Council maintained power by preventing the kind of collaboration that might threaten established hierarchies. But humanity offers something different. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice filled with excitement rather than threat. Our species has a unique gift for adaptation and integration. We can take technologies that have remained separate for eons and combine them into something greater than the sum of their parts. She showed examples of what human-led collaboration had already achieved. Energy systems that were twice as efficient as anything previously known. Faster-than-light drives that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. Medical techniques that combined the best knowledge from dozens of species to save lives that would have been lost before. The message was clear. Humanity was not offering domination but partnership. Not conquest but collaboration. They wanted to use their unique abilities to help every species in the galaxy reach beyond the limitations that had held them back for so long. The response was immediate and divided. Some species, particularly the younger civilizations that had been held back by Council restrictions, eagerly accepted human offers of joint research projects. Others, especially the ancient powers, remained suspicious and fearful. The Narathi Commonwealth was the first to officially request human assistance. Their star system was dying, and traditional technology could not save it. Dr. Rodriguez led a team of human scientists to work alongside Narathi engineers. Within 3 months, they had developed a stellar engineering technique that extended the star's life by millions of years. Success followed success. Admiral Jake Morrison oversaw the transformation of human colonies into research centers where multiple species worked together. The Kepler Research Station became a symbol of the new cooperation, with humans, Narathis, Alani, and a dozen other species collaborating on projects that none could achieve alone. Captain Lisa Chen commanded exploration missions that pushed into uncharted regions of space. Her mixed-species crews discovered new forms of energy, encountered previously unknown civilizations, and mapped dimensional passages that revolutionized galactic travel. The New Horizons became famous throughout the galaxy as a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. The breakthroughs came faster than anyone had imagined possible. Technologies that had been theoretical for millions of years became practical reality. Medical advances that eliminated diseases which had plagued entire species. Engineering solutions that transformed barren worlds into gardens. But the most important change was not technological. It was cultural. Species that had been isolated by fear and suspicion began to communicate again. Knowledge that had been hoarded for eons was shared freely. The galaxy that had fallen silent in fear began to hum with the sound of collaboration. Not everyone was happy with the changes. The old Council powers watched their authority crumble, as species after species joined human-led initiatives. High Chancellor Vexithera called emergency session after emergency session, but fewer and fewer delegates attended. The breaking point came when the crystalline architects, one of the oldest and proudest species in the galaxy, formally requested human assistance. Their ability to reshape matter had reached its limits, and they needed new approaches to solve problems on their homeworld. Ambassador Ziara met with Laura Martinez in a historic meeting that was broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, one of the ancient powers was asking for help from a species they had once considered primitive. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. Vexithara herself finally made the call that marked the end of the old galactic order. In a private communication with President Wells, the proud Dominion leader made an unprecedented request. "We need your help. Our technology has limits we cannot overcome alone. Will humanity work with us?" President Wells accepted with the same grace that humanity had shown throughout the crisis. "Of course. We have never sought to replace the old powers, only to help everyone reach their full potential. Partnership, not domination, has always been our goal. The transformation was swift and dramatic. The Galactic Confederation dissolved itself and reformed as the Galactic Collaborative. Instead of a hierarchy with ancient powers at the top, it became a network of equals working together toward common goals. Laura Martinez became the first Director General of Interspecies Collaboration, a position that existed not to rule but to facilitate. Human ambassadors and scientists served as bridges between species, helping translate concepts and technologies across different paradigms of understanding. The fear that had paralyzed the galaxy transformed into something else entirely. Excitement, curiosity, and hope replaced suspicion and isolation. Species that had not spoken to each other for millions of years began sharing their greatest discoveries. 5 years after the Sol system demonstration, the galaxy was experiencing a renaissance unlike anything in its history. Technological breakthroughs that had seemed impossible under the old system became routine achievements. Diseases were cured, stars were healed, and entire worlds were transformed. More importantly, barriers between species began to break down. Interspecies relationships became common, leading to new forms of art, philosophy, and culture that enriched everyone. The galaxy that had been divided by fear and prejudice became united by shared purpose and mutual respect. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Collaborative headquarters, watching ships from 100 different species working together on joint missions. The same fleets that had once threatened to destroy humanity now carried mixed crews exploring the furthest reaches of space. Dr. Rodriguez received visitors from across the galaxy at her research centers, where impossible problems became exciting challenges to be solved through collaboration. The techniques developed through human-led partnerships were being shared freely, raising the technological level of every participating civilization. Captain Chen launched the largest exploration mission in galactic history, with volunteers from every major species eager to discover what lay beyond the known universe. The spirit of cooperation that humanity had fostered was driving expansion and discovery at an unprecedented rate as Laura Martinez reviewed the reports coming in from thousands of collaborative projects across the galaxy. She reflected on humanity's journey. They had gone from threatened newcomers to the facilitators of galactic renaissance, not through conquest or domination, but through their greatest strength, the ability to bring out the best in others. The galaxy that had once fallen silent in fear now hummed with the sound of unprecedented collaboration. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to do what they had always done best: adapt, integrate, and help others reach beyond what they thought possible. The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. But for the first time in galactic history, every species had a chance to reach their full potential. The primitive mammals had shown them all that there were no limits to what could be achieved when fear was replaced by hope, and isolation was replaced by cooperation. Humanity's true power had never been their technology or their weapons. It had been their ability to see potential where others saw only problems, to build bridges where others saw only barriers, and to transform enemies into allies through patience, wisdom, and unwavering commitment to a better future for all.